All right, so you already feel your ancestors. You can sense them in certain moments. Maybe you have dreams about them, or when things are really quiet, you can kind of have this sense or this knowing. But then when you try to actually communicate with them to ask for guidance, to get clarity, to get protection, it can feel like static. I'm Dr. Latoya Davis, and today I'm breaking down exactly how to speak to your ancestors in a way that's grounded, clear, and actually works. All right, so if you're new, this is Soul Aligned Living, and if you're not, welcome back. Go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Um, Today, like I said, we're going to be just really looking at how we move from kind of just this sensing thing to being able to feel our ancestors or communicate. A lot of the questions that I get when working with clients is around how you actually communicate with the ancestors, and people living in this space of like ambiguity of if I'm doing it right, if it's working, how can I make it better, all of those things. So that's what we're talking about today. All right. One thing that's really important is understanding that ancestral communication is a relationship, right? So just like in our physical reality, when we have communication with someone else, it's us in relation to this other person. And sometimes the strength of that communication gets better over time, right? We've put in energy, we've learned each other's kind of idiosyncrasies. Is that the right word? We've created a situation in the relationship where now the communication is easier, right? I don't have to work as hard to have a conversation with my best friend because we've been having conversations with each other for over 30 years, right? So it's the same thing when we're thinking about ancestral communication. It is a relationship and it gets better over time. A lot of time, most people stop before they've actually gotten into the habit or into the process of actually building the relationship, right? It's like, well, I did it this one time and that didn't feel right. That didn't work. Or I did it this, I did it twice, or I did it for a week, right? Yeah, that's my side eye, right? Sometimes that does work because that particular ancestor may be like there with you. They can be your main guide, like all of these other things, right? You may have had a relationship with them here in kind of the physical world that transcends and makes that easy once that transition happened. But that is not always the case, okay? So, what I first point to remember is that ancestral communication is about building a relationship. Okay. And then the other thing here is that they are not, your ancestors are not like some distant cosmic idea or concept or force, right? You are the physical embodiment of your ancestors, which means that they are a part of you. They are there, they are in you. You cannot disconnect or take them out of yourself, which also means that your ability to tap into and connect with them and have that communication is a lot easier than it is with a lot of other forces and entities and beings and spirits and all of that, right? Because those things are cosmic or outside of you or, in other dimensions and realms. But your ancestors are literally an aspect of you. And I think putting it into that framing is a wonderful starting point to kind of demystify the process, right? Just from a logical standpoint, what are you made up of, right? How did you get to be the person that you are? And in that, however you start out answering it, eventually you have to land on from your mother, your father, who came from your grandmother and your grandfather, right? And this thing that kind of just continues. And so, again, you are kind of the physical representation of all of those who have come before you. So, when you are speaking to your ancestors, think about that that's what I'm doing. I'm connecting to or calling forward this aspect that is already a part of me. Okay. The other thing, big picture, before we dive in, is understanding that connecting with or communicating, sorry, communicating with our ancestors isn't just about, that's interesting. It isn't just about asking for stuff, and it also isn't just about receiving an edit or a dictate. Why I say that is a lot of times in the realm that I'm in, right? Because I come out of a African traditional religious systems, and so our communication, our veneration, our relating to ancestors has a very particular bent or lens. And so oftentimes that comes with this idea that I'm going to the ancestors and they're going to, give me this information and give me this advice, and or I'm going to go and I'm going to give this offering, and it is because later I want these things, right? I want to also kind of ask that we pull back from that framing of ancestral communication, and building a relationship with our ancestors, and understanding that in building relationships with our ancestors, it is an opportunity for us to heal things that are happening within us, right? Understand patterns and situations and struggles that we might be experiencing. It is an opportunity to move the kind of bloodline or the lineage forward. It is an opportunity to also get support, right, for the things that we want and the goals that we are trying to move forward. Okay, it is an opportunity to get wisdom and clarity, but it's like so full in why we can go to even have communication with our ancestors. And sometimes it's just because, you know what, I miss my mama or I miss my daddy and I want to hear what they would have had to say in this time. And that is perfectly fine as well. All right, so let's dive in. One thing that can happen or that can be causing distortion is what I'm just going to call like chaotic energy, right? So when you're starting and you're thinking about, okay, I am going to communicate with my ancestors, I think the easiest thing, this actually wasn't in my note, but I think where I want to start is the easiest thing is just saying I'm going to have a conversation with myself, right? So for example, this could look like I'm in my car, right? I'm going to take a few deep breaths, because I do think that bringing ourselves into the space, bringing our mental and kind of intention into the moment is the first step. No matter what path we take, that part is going to always be the first step, right? Kind of just being able to like shift into this space and drop into our intention. Okay, so let's say I'm just in my car chilling, and then I get the desire or the urge to be like, you know what, I really want to talk to my mama right now, right? So I would take a deep breath, be very clear about that intention, and then start talking. And why can I do that? Because my mother is a part of me, right? I came from her. And again, I cannot go inside of me and start to remove aspects of myself. Okay. So it is simply me calling forward the aspect that is of myself or in myself and beginning to have communication. So I set the attention. I start talking. Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to make up a conversation, but you get the point. I start talking, right? So that is the simplest way. Just where you are, how you are, being with who you are, right? Just set your intention and then start having a conversation. Okay? But if we want to go into kind of more formal ways, right? I would suggest one that you set a space that is going to kind of be your designated space. Why am I saying that? Because energy, repeated energy, like into a particular spot, it kind of creates a momentum, right? It creates almost like a portal. And so it's like if I go to the same spot every time and I'm doing the same thing, it's like eventually when the forces or the energy records like, oh wait, when I stand, and even your spirit, right? Oh, when I stand on this spot, that means boom, 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 it's going to happen, right? So eventually, when we create ritual and we create ritual and we have a spot that becomes the thing, it just one helps us to create better. It's shortcuts. That's good. It shortcuts how we are able to get to our goal. Okay, so you're going to clear your space. That can be with incense, that can be with sound frequencies, that could be with water, that can be with light, that can be with intention, that can be with prayer. Whatever, clear your space. You're going to take 3 deep breaths and then just call your spirit fully present. Okay, and this is just about the intention part. Okay, as you're doing that, you're going to very clearly state your intention. What's important for me here when you're stating this intention is that you are specific that you are, if you're not trying to communicate with a particular ancestor, because in that case we're just going to call that ancestor that you're trying to communicate with, but if we're just like in general, I'm trying to, communicate with my ancestors, you're going to call those ancestors that are in love and light. Okay, so a sample intention statement could sound something like this. I open this space in love, light, and truth. I invite only those ancestors that are aligned with the energy of love, light, and truth. Any ancestors that are not in alignment with these energies are not permitted access to the space. Okay, that's a very clear, framing for it, right? And then whatever you want, right? I am calling for these ancestors to seek wisdom, to get clarity, to have a connection, to learn about, just to talk, to give that, whatever it is, right? Okay, so we've set our intention. Now you can, I'm sorry. So that's one way to speak to your ancestors, right? Through prayer, um, and consistent, like through prayer. The second way is through ritual. Okay, ritual makes energy visible. And you can do this through kind of creating just a simple ancestral altar. Um, Similar to that dedicated space. The only difference is now on this ancestral altar, you can start to put artifacts or things that matter. I have a whole video on creating an ancestral altar. I will link it in the comments. But that goes through, again, kind of different ways and different approaches that you can do that, okay? But through ritual. So you're going to create your altar. You're going to still set that intention, right? You're going to still ground yourself in the space. You're going to still make sure that the space is clear and clean, okay? And then you're going to speak to your ancestors like you were just having a regular conversation with them. Tell them what's happening in your life. Tell them what you need. Tell them what you're grateful for. And then you're going to pause and you're going to listen. Okay, I'm going to talk about that pausing and listening in the next section when we talk about what are some of the blocks for connection. But understand that's the second way that you can connect with your ancestors. The third way is just through stillness, right? And the energy. Communication isn't always words. Sometimes it's vibration. And you might receive guidance through a song that won't leave your head, a memory that surfaces at the perfect time, right? Just kind of this peace that comes that's like, we got it, right? All of those things are also communication. This one is just popping up. I'll offer this one too. Again, not in my notes, but there is something called Bibliomancy, and it's where you use a book to receive messages. And you could see if I have a book around. Oh, I just used this one. It's my Akashic Records book. But let's say I had an issue or a concern, and I was like, "Gosh, I really want some guidance. I really want." Some support in this particular area. My grandmother would give me the perfect words at these moments, right? So I would pick a book that I believe has some type of messages. I love Iyanla Van Zant's Every Day I Pray book. I use that a lot for this type of thing. The Bible is also one that we can use for this. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with y'all who are like, boo the Bible, whatever. Be great. Use what you like. But books like that, right? It could be a quote book, right? Whatever it is. So I would set the intention that I am trying to communicate with my grandmother, and I'm really looking for guidance and information. Okay, Grandma, what do you have for me? What do you have to say, right? You can tap on the book 3 times. You can put it to your head and pray while you're thinking about what you want, and then you simply open the book. Haha, that's funny. When I opened the book too. So you open the book and then you typically, I go to wherever my eyes land first, right? That's my practice. Some people start at the top of the page, whatever. I go to, like when I open the page, wherever my eyes land, that's where I start as my message, okay? So my eye in this particular setting space here landed at comparison is the thief of joy. So, and is actually about, haha, that's hilarious. This particular section is about considerations when receiving information. Of course, this is geared to the Akashic Records, but seeing as we're talking about receiving information in general right now with ancestral work. I think that that's really appropriate and funny. Haha, funny that it's landed on this, right? But it says, comparison is a thief of joy. Your experience in the records is your experience. I often notice that when teaching live courses, someone shares an experience. If another person doesn't feel that or it doesn't match, then we start to think that something is wrong, forgetting that the information came to you in the way that was exactly right for you. And why I think that's important is because I feel like a lot of times the reason people feel like they are not having communication is because it is not coming to them in the way that they saw it on TikTok or YouTube or their friend or whatever. And recognize that how those people receive information is how those people receive information, right? And it doesn't make their way right or wrong or valid or invalid. It just isn't how you're going to get it. And so be open to however the information comes to you. All right. So that leads me perfectly into what gets in the way. So, first thing is expectation, right? The movie industry has really done a job on us, right? How we think stuff is supposed to happen. Things flying across the room, books knocking off the tables, right? All of these things, these dreams that are like explosive, a really clear voice. That's not, I mean, not to say that that can't happen and that doesn't happen, but that is not the norm, okay? Communication is subtle. It's a feeling, it's a knowing, it's a shift in your body, right? So stop waiting for the fireworks and just start noticing the quiet things. You all know that I'm team energy follows intent. We set the intention, we believe the energy to follow that through. So if you have set the intention for there to be communication, the thing now we're in the mode of receptivity. Okay, what's happening? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? What's different? Because I trust the intention that I set is going to happen. Okay. The second one is fear. Y'all, this is funny to me. And I get it though. I get it. But it's like, I want to do it, but I'm scared. I want to do it, but I'm scared. But wait, it didn't happen because you were scared, right? It's like this triangle that's this loop, right? I want to, but I'm scared. But wait, it didn't happen. It didn't happen because you were scared. Okay? So again, recognizing that there is nothing to fear. My mom used to say, I fear the living more than I fear the dead. Her thing was like, the living can do way more to you than the dead could ever do. And that's the reality, right? But if you grew up being told not to connect with your ancestors, that is dark or it's dangerous or it's wrong, that fear can live in your nervous system, right? Even when you aren't really consciously aware of it, okay? So I want you are not summoning, this isn't like Ouija board experience, right? You are simply having a conversation with an aspect that is already a part of you because you are the physical manifestation of all of those who have come before you, okay? And then the last one can be unhealed patterns. So sometimes we can't hear our ancestors clearly because we're still carrying their unprocessed pain. And that's where the healing work really starts to come in, which is why I actually love kind of building this ancestral connection and communication, right? And it's one of the core pillars of what I do. So what I have here is that you can't like bypass the healing part and then expect the connection to be clear. I had a client, I think it was this week. No, today is Monday. So it was last week. And a client last week, and they were having fear around, well, it wasn't an expressed fear. They were having complications in receiving communication. And then when we dug in it, right, there was this fear that was happening there. But then when we dug even deeper than like the top layer of fear, it was actually something that had been passed down, right? And so it's important for us to, when we're doing this work, like question and dig deeper and not just kind of stop at, well, it didn't work, right? Why didn't it work? What are some of the blocks? What are some of the things that could possibly be going on? Let me approach this from another angle. Let me journal about this. Okay. All right. So if you're open to it, this week, I want you to work on connecting and having communication with your ancestors. I don't want you to go into this exercise with the expectation that I am going to say something to them, and then they're going to say something back to me. I want you to go into this week with the expectation or with the understanding that I am cultivating a relationship, and we are in the getting to know each other phase. And in the getting to know each other phase, right, I'm going to try some things. We're going to figure it out. We're going to finally find the thing that where we meet. Okay? So in this figuring it out phase, you're going to identify, does me just sitting in my car having a conversation feel good to me? Let me try that. Do I need a space? Is that important? Like, do I need a spot where I'm just going to go? Maybe it's my yoga mat. I'm going to sit there, zen in, zen out, whichever. Do I need to create an altar? And then in that, you're going to go, you're going to set your intention, and then you're just going to talk. You can sit afterwards and finish to see if you receive anything. You can say your things, and you can be gone. You can ask for a sign to come in music. You can ask your question, say, hey, can you give me this answer in music? You can say, hey, give me directions in the book, whatever it is. But what I'm saying, what I'm offering here is that give yourself, let's do 9. 9 is the number for ancestors. Give yourself 9 consistent days of communication in whatever way that looks like. All right. So if this is something that you are being called to, I do have a course called Connect, Elevate, and Heal, where you learn a structure to basically be able to connect and to elevate your ancestral lineage, and then to work through any patterns or things that you've identified that are not helping you get to the best and highest version of your life. All right. And then I have 2 books, Path to the Ancestors, which gives you specific prayers and specific prompts. So if you need that type of support, you get there, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to pray for, that is a really good offering. So both of those will be linked in the comments. All right. So until next time, remember, you deserve to live a life that lights you up from the inside out. I will see you later. Peace.